interesting session indeed. Our next session, ladies and gentlemen, is Inside the Jury Room. As the name suggests, we will be talking to the jury members who evaluated the non-fiction segment of the Wise Owl Awards and learn from them what they consider significant in a work of non-fiction. We now invite our distinguished jury members for the session. Avinash Mohannaney, former DJP, Sikkim, who was awarded the Indian Police Medal for Meritorious Service and President's Medal for Distinguished Service. After retirement, he took up writing. In his new avatar writes on contemporary issues for prestigious dailies like Economic Times, Hindustan Times, The Print, The Citizen, among others. We welcome you, sir. Vivek Atray, former IPS officer, is a motivational speaker, author, mentor, advisor, columnist, and a visiting professor. He is the founder of the Vibrant Networking Forum, Playwright Foundation, Chandigarh, Literary Society, and co-convener of Intact, Chandigarh. He is also a member of the Governor's Advisory Council of Chandigarh UT. Pankaj Singh is the CEO of the hugely successful bookstore in Chandigarh, aptly called Browser. He has now expanded his work and also happens to be the mentor of Fauji Days, a publishing house with a special focus on military literature. Our moderator for this session is Poonam Batth, an award-winning journalist who has worked with leading dailies like Indian Express and the Tribune and was bureau head of the premier news channel Times Now. Please take it from here, Ms. Poonam.
Magazine and the first edition of the Literary Awards this time, and her husband, Dr. Harmeet Singh, who really put up a good show together. So I give you to begin with, I would say that with all of you authors here, creativity is an individual journey, and it's very personal too. So, with all you writers, authors, and speakers here, all I can say is that, you all come from a personal space, and then, coming all from there to absorb, and when you are judging, you're absorbing another person's creative energy or their work. It's not an easy job to do. It's a tough thing to do. But, I would like to begin with you, sir, sir, that what are the primary criteria? I'm going to start with some short questions. That's why, because the session time is very short. What are the primary criteria you consider while you are evaluating a non-fiction book? Is it the depth of research? Is it the clarity, the originality, or maybe the narrative engagement, or something else?
I think these four things are the main touchstones or the broad parameters to judge a book. There is no argument about it. But beyond that, I would also consider the credibility of the writer, because in the non-fiction, there are people who are sponsored by some political parties, some by religious organizations, some by vested interests, to particularly target a particular ideology or propagate a particular ideology. So the credibility of writer also becomes important. But amongst the four things that you said, for me, the important one is the narrative engagement. Humans love stories, and if somebody can write stories and weave it into a narrative, then it's a very good non-fiction from my point of view.
That's right. And Vivek, coming to you, how do you assess the credibility of a book? Do you fact check the information that is presented, or do you give credence to the author's citations and references?
Thank you very much for that question. And we've been sitting at the back of the hall, and I must say the view from the stage is much more interesting. Nothing against the people who've appeared on the stage. They're very interesting people, accomplished. good speakers, great writers. But the second thing is we can hear ourselves pretty well out here. So,
That's true.
yeah, but the ones at the back are a little disconnected. So we need to all okay at the back? All fine? Okay, great. Super. So credibility is important, but that's only part of it. I mean, that is a given. I mean, we cannot have someone who's not credible writing on a topic. I mean, you can't write on cricket if you're a golfer and vice versa. So credibility, authenticity, but then the book also has to be not only informative, it has to be inspirational in some way. It has to be gripping. You cannot write just factual stuff in a non-fiction book. I mean, you're researching, it's very good, it could be very technical. Somewhere it has to be gripping and interesting. It's the way you present your facts, your language. Without language, there's no literature. I mean, language has to be utilized in the best possible way. And I think the books that I went through, we all went through, some of them were incredible books. The authors have obviously worked really hard. The easier ones are those which are written from the heart.
Can you name some of them?
It's been a few months and I don't want to get the names wrong. I don't have the list here. And even if I mention someone who is not getting an award, then I mean, that is also a bit odd. But I would say that those written from the heart are the ones which are more believable, more connected to us as readers. And I think a reader, there are people who put away a book after 15 pages. I've done that too. I mean, you pick up a book and you're like, not so interested and you put it away. As a jury member, you can't do that. But you have to go through everything. But I think a book needs to speak to the reader, which even if it's 500 years old or even more, it still connects. And that's important.
That's important. That's well said. And Pankaj, coming to you, how do what distinguishes a truly extraordinary non-fiction book from a merely good one?
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. And I'd like to thank Dr. Rachna, Dr. Harmeet, and Vaisal for having me here. To answer your question, what distinguishes a truly outstanding book? I think it is a combination of two factors. When the creative energy and the output of the author matches the professional editorial weight that a good publisher brings in. I'm obviously saying this because I come from a publishing background. But I feel that to make a book truly outstanding, it is a combination of the author's effort and the publisher's effort in terms of the editorial effort that a publisher puts in. I meet a number of debut authors nowadays. Somehow traditional publishing has become conflated with publishing for free as contrast to self-publishing. So people think that if you go to a traditional publisher, it's more about we don't have to pay anything. But that's not what traditional publishing is about. Traditional publishing is about the weight of the editorial that the publisher brings to bear. Unfortunately, my observation today is that it is a little diluted today for even the big publishers. I'll give you one example. One is the book that we are having shortlisted today, which is How I Became a Runner by Sohini Chattopadhyay, which I think is a magnificent, outstanding book. And I have been reading very recent reviews in the press about Ratan Tata's book that has just been brought out by Harper, which is a massive tome, and it's there. And review after review, just like Vivek was just saying, you can't just collect facts. Review after review is saying that it's fact after fact after fact, and the book becomes boring, and you don't enjoy the book. Now, if everybody is reaching an almost near unanimous conclusion, I think it is the failure of the editorial. It's the editors who have not, put in sufficient effort, who understand the business, who understand the trade, who understand books, who understand everything. And yet, if the book is found boring, then I think it is squarely an editorial failure. So to make a very magnificent book, it needs a combination of both. And as literary history will show you, every great author has had a great editor behind him or her. So that's my understanding.
That's true. The editor does make all the difference. Avinash sir, in cases where a book presents controversial or unconventional viewpoints, how do you assess that the arguments are well founded?
Yes, it's not easy to do that because one has to go through the book and see whether the author has relied on proper research, proper citations, presented a proper bibliography, and are there academic papers on it, and why is the need for changing a certain perception of certain issues in the public domain and change it to a unconventional thought. So the writer has to explain this to the reader, that why is the need for him to read this one, because the reader may not be interested till you have a gripping narrative, you have a logical explanation, you have proper clarity of the thought. All these things would be necessary for any contrarian book or the book that is unconventional to pass the muster.
True, that's right. Vivek, coming to you, that some of these non-fiction books, they read like novels, while a few others are analytical. So in that case, do you lean one style over the other?
Human beings are storytellers. I mean, stories have to be told, and if they're told with that, that pain, that pathos, or that romance, that love, coming from the heart, and even while writing, I mean, we're all writers. So even while writing, if you're excited about what you're writing, I mean, factual stuff. I mean, I'm an engineer. I mean, with 6.3 ho gaya, theek hai. I mean, I pity all the chartered accountants in that sense. I have lots of friends. I mean, obviously, you're dealing only with numbers. I mean, you can have music on the side, but you are a factual person. And your job is to inform your client that this is the rule, this is the law, this is, there's very little play over there. But if you have the potential and the expertise to write a narrative which is speaking to the reader, and your subject is such, and there are in this list gripping human stories. They may not be, they are real, true stories, they're non-fiction, and they're touching the heart, and they're painful. And if a reader is chuckling or shedding a tear while reading a book, I mean, there's nothing like that. It happens in the films because the films emote so apparently on the screen. Here, the writer has to take more pains and use the right words and the combination. It may take a couple of pages for you to get that mood in. But there are sentences which speak to the people. And poetry is a very powerful form of that. Whereas prose, which I write, I can't write poetry again. Like Manraj, hello. The point here is that every book has a story to tell. And it has to tell that story convincingly, entertainingly, and compellingly.
Pankaj, coming to you, how do you really compare books from vastly different genres of non-fiction, history, biography, memoirs, the science, to be an investigative journalism like Arun's story?
So at least for this round of selection where we had books from many, many different genres, I'll give some credit to Dr. Rachna, who drew up our matrix for being able to score the books on different criteria. So we had 5 different criteria on which to score the books. For example, we had one on impact, one on structure, one on the fact and research, and there was on the readability, the narrative factor. So we had a grid of 5 points, and each book was scored independently on all the 5 points. And then a total score was calculated. And that's how it allowed us to compare books across genres, which could be vastly different from each other, but we could reach at an average score and, rank them.
So that must have been quite an interesting and enriching process.
Yes, it was a good process because you tend to think about a book minutely from all angles. You don't ignore any aspect of it. So, yes, that's right.
Thank you. What, in your opinion, Avinash sir, is the most challenging aspect of judging non-fiction books?
As I said, that storytelling, the Facebook survives on that. We all love to tell our stories and listen to others. So if, for me, the most important thing is that is the author able to communicate with the reader continuously? Because I would not like to read a book after 10-15 pages. I start thinking of keeping it down. So if the author engages with the reader, he or she knows it that the reader has these questions, and the author keeps answering those questions. That is how the narrative moves. So even in non-fiction, if the human stories, the real stories, whether it's from history or whether it is from philosophy, psychology, or anything, if they can be woven into a narrative, that I would consider to be the best book on fiction, because people's attention is very small, short, and
It has to be
increasing.
intrinsic. It has to be very intrinsic, I think.
Yeah. So it has to be such that the reader doesn't lose any interest while reading.
And my question to you, Vivek, is that how much weight do you give to a book's societal impact? Should a non-fiction book contribute to public discourse or challenge conventional wisdom to be considered award-worthy?
I think that goes without saying. You have to. I mean, the book has to contribute. And they could be feel-good books, and I've also got a couple of them. I mean, you write a rom-com, you make people feel happy. But society is where we are. We are here, and we live in society. And a thinker who writes, even more than that, a person who is in action, who's running an NGO, who's working with the underprivileged, is writing, then obviously that impact on society is far greater. The problem is we don't read enough. And to have people in a hall like this today on a Saturday evening, and so many of us, is an incredible achievement in itself. For Rachna ma'am and Harmeet, I mean, fantastically well done. But people are not reading enough, and they're not engaging in conversations about social norms, societal changes. They're talking about crime. Crime ka kya hai? I mean, crime, why do we need to discuss crime so much? Why do we need to get into what happened and who killed whom and how did he kill her or whatever? Well, I mean, what is all this? We need to talk about progressive change. What about the youth? They're overthinking. We are not encouraging them enough to read. So I think books must contribute to society, its various aspects, and the impact.
I think times are changing, Vivek, and now the very fact this audience speaks volumes about itself. That people have on a Saturday evening they choose to be here, and so I'm sure reading and
not enough people below 21.
Yeah, that. But I was talking to Rachna.
I'm sorry to everyone who thinks they're below 21, but
I'm sure that population.
If they watch the reels of this show, I'll be happy with that.
Yeah,
we must put it on Instagram.
Yeah, we will do that. Thank you so much for this session on Inside the Jury, and it's an honor to be speaking to all three of you.
Thank you, Poonam. Thank you, gentlemen of the jury. We would like to honor them all for their hard work as the jury. We would now request Madam Kalpana Mittal Barua, former IS officer, and Mr. Nilimesh Barua, former bureaucrat and advisor of OECD Paris, to please honor the jury members for non-fiction.